but we must not deny, especially our generation, simply because we have multiple tasks on hand, whether it is a woman or a man, doesn't matter. All of us have multiple tasks. Our parents aimed at certain things. They probably wanted to get us educated, gave us that education, gave us good life. But with our children, the amount that we spend on their education and on so many other things has increased manifold. I think we belong to a generation where we remember the day a telephone or a television or a refrigerator came to our house. But our children are born with all these. In fact, we also remember the day a computer came into our house and how we started learning to use computers. But our children are endowed with all these. In fact, I read something that I read on the internet. I keep asking my children, our generation gave all these to you. Now, what are you going to give your next generation? What are you going to do with that? So they have virtually nothing to do because everything is already available. So they have to whack their brains to come up with something absolutely new. Okay, that distraction apart, this health consciousness in our generation is strongly lacking. We tend to ignore our health. Women, especially of a certain age, it's very natural to have a lot of health issues, but timely intervention will prevent aggravating those situations. So no matter what health issue it is, from common cold to anything big, we have to attend to it immediately. We have to attend to it in the most rational manner so that we not only eliminate the symptom, we also eliminate the cause. So that is what we have to aim at. And now that becomes even more challenging for us to manage our own selves with the kind of health issue that we have. So health and hygiene are supreme as far as managing self is concerned. And then grooming. This is very essential. Probably a generation before, grooming was not considered important. But now in our workplace, we have to make ourselves presentable. We have to be, otherwise students may not want to look at us at all. So we need not look gorgeous, but we have to look pleasant. We have to look, need not be attractive. We need not dress up or, as though we are attending a fashion show or a wedding, but we need to look decent. We need to present ourselves in the best possible workplace attire. So attire is important. And this importance is not given to us in the present scenario. Even during Shakespearean times in Hamlet, he says, apparel oft speaks the man. So it describes us. It tells something about us, our taste, our choice, and how well we care about ourselves. In fact, the first impression is made only from the way we present ourselves. So how we present, how we look. If we are healthy, we look presentable. If we are clean, we look presentable. If we have groomed ourselves well, if we've taken measures to make ourselves presentable, then presentability is something that we know how to handle. And with this next comes what we say or how we speak. The tone of our voice, the manner in which we express our emotions, the manner in which we greet others. Words should come from our heart. And when that happens, tone, as you may all know, it's the attitude. It's a reflection of our attitude. So it speaks so much about our personality, how loud we are, where are we loud, where are we soft, what words come out of our mouth, how do they come? Do they come with a certain command, or are they very diplomatic, or whether they are very cunning? All these have impact on the people around us, and it tells a lot about our personality and how we articulate our thoughts, how we express our feelings, how we express our ideas, whether we make suggestions or whether we give instructions. All these are implied only in the tone of our voice. In short, manage me is about handling our trait, attitude, and behavior. Now, what is trait? Trait is swabhavam, that which we are born with. Not much of a tampering can be done. In fact, it should not be meddled with at all. It's what makes us what we are. The DNA of our body. Attitude is something that evolves as we grow and experience life. Attitude keeps changing, and behavior is the manifestation of the trait and attitude together. So if we can manage our attitude and behavior and present our attitude and behavior in a manner that brings happiness to us and to others, then we have conducted ourselves well. First and foremost, it should bring happiness to us. We should be pleased with whatever we have done. Even if it's a crime, if we are pleased with what we have done, then somewhere there is this gratification, right? If it is against law, law will take its course and it will punish us. That's a different matter. But if we do what we like to do and we do it in the best of manner, then if it gives us that crime, if it gives us that satisfaction, if it gives us that gratification, if we know it has brought benefit to us and to others, then we need not worry about what we do or how we do it, because we have exercised control, we have exercised some kind of a management of our own selves. So just because I said committing a crime is not, if it's illegal, the law will catch up, right? So please don't take that part too seriously. Anyway, so the trait, attitude, and behavior, it is this connection that, in fact, it is the holistic view of the three that makes up our personality. So our personality is the sum total of our trait, attitude, and behavior. And if we can have exercise, if we can have hold on our attitude and behavior, if we can tell ourselves when we are wrong and make that conscious effort to correct us when we are wrong, then we will be presenting the best self forward. So this is about personal management. So the next is interpersonal management. Now, once we know how to manage ourselves, we also need, what we try to do about us, we need to extend to others. We respect our thoughts, we respect our feelings. We must equally respect others' thoughts and others' feelings. We can disagree with somebody, right? Everybody is entitled to their opinion. So if we have the rights to say our opinion, somebody else has the right to say their opinion. We may not agree with that opinion. We are welcome to disagree, but let's agree to disagree. This is a very, very tall ask. It's not easy. Our immediate tendency is to argue. But if we can argue with solid points to defend our point of view, then it will be accepted. And that can be best done in a moderate tone of voice. The moment we raise our voice, it means that, we have lost confidence in our own point of view. So there is something that is lacking in our point of view, and that is why we are raising our voice. Now that has to be avoided. If we can avoid that, if we can do that, then we will start respecting everything and everybody around us. And we will be also able to accept people as they are. This is again a very, very tall ask. It's very difficult for us to accept somebody else making a mistake, especially in our homes when they point fingers at us. We will be waiting for a chance when we can point fingers at others. Well, there's nothing wrong about it, but that has to be moderated. We can't do it every time. It's the same providence who's created us, who has created others too. So God has created somebody in a certain manner for a certain reason. We may not know the reason, we may not know the purpose. So God has created that person with a certain purpose. in God's mind for a certain reason. So who are we to comment on others? What to say? The reason why they act in a certain manner, in a manner that is not acceptable to us. Now, this way, what happens when we try to constantly find fault with others is there is a tendency to reject the person. And that is where we lose a precious relationship. It is not correct to reject a person. We may disapprove of the person's action, we may disapprove of the person's words, what has been said, but that is restricted only to that specific idea or that specific incident. We must not carry it forward to reject the person per se. And now that is one of the most crucial things in accepting a person as they are. Everybody around us is endowed with positive and negative qualities. If we have good self-management skills, if we know how to manage ourselves, as I said earlier, we will try to imbibe positive qualities. We will be open to accepting new qualities and change our own selves. It is only when we have this closed mind and I'm right, the rest of the world is wrong, that kind of an attitude, that we are closed to correcting ourselves. We are close to course correcting. So that way, we will not be in a position to accept people with all their pluses and minuses. Just a small smile at everybody. Nothing beyond that. We don't have to have an opinion on everyone. We need not reveal everything about us for others to reveal everything about them. We can be discreet. What we know about a person may be limited, and let us know something good about them. Now that is very, very crucial. Even if we know that the person with whom we have to work in a workplace, even if we know that the person has something negative, the best way to deal with it is to ignore. The best way to deal with it is to ignore the negatives in that person. This is a very tall ask. This is very difficult, but we have to constantly work towards establishing this so that we grow as a person. So what we look to a great extent, I may even say that we can have a functional relationship with everyone. That way, we need not bother about the negatives in others. We may find a lot of people working against us. The best way in such a situation is to ignore. In fact, towards the end, I shall come to some of the common situations that we encounter in workplace and how to deal with it. So there we will know what we can do to manage our own self. Many people have what we call as this empty curiosity. We want to know everything about somebody. We don't reveal about us, so why should we know about somebody? These are all barriers to good interpersonal relationship. These are barriers that will not allow the relationship to blossom. So empty curiosity, rejecting a person, taking hold of their negatives, we must respond to whatever people do to us or tell us and not react. Reaction is instant. Response is something that comes over a period of time. So that way, what we probably have to do is wait for a moment, think about what we need to do, and then give our response. It's okay if people call us proverbially what tube light, or we don't instantly react to things. Reaction is instant. It is an action without thinking. Response is an action that is preceded by a long drawn thought. Now that thought process will cool us down, will not allow us to spill out words, especially when we are angry. if we decide to respond, we will take that one moment, go back, analyze the situation, and then respond. Now, these are all ways by which we can establish good relationship with people, and these are crucial for interpersonal management. Familial management. Now, each one is the best judge in our context, so we cannot have hard and fast rules for this. So one of the proverbial questions that we need to ask ourselves is, just a minute. Sorry. Yes. These are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Family first or profession first? So each one of us, as I said earlier, each one of us is the best judge in our context. There's nothing much that can be said about these, but these are points that I would want you all to ponder about. Many people I have met who have managed to balance home and work always say out of sight, out of mind. If I leave home, I think only about workplace. If I leave workplace, I think only about home. So that has helped many. In fact, it has helped me too. So I don't go to my workplace thinking about what's happening at home. That way, I neither do justice to home, not to office, not to work. So that is something that you can ponder about. Similarly, managing homework. When I say homework, it's not children's homework. It's our work at home. Work-home balance, prioritizing family and work. What comes first when? Adjustment versus compromise. And do we give quality time at both places? So this is best left to the individual. These are things that will help us cope with stress. One of the most important reasons as to why we all get stressed is because we are unable to balance these things. We are unable to bring about a kind of balance, a kind of equilibrium between home and work. And if we can do that, I think we are best judge in our context. So how we do it is best left to us. And then social management. Now, this is very, very important in today's life. What is our identity outside home and outside workplace? At home, we have our roles cut out. At workplace, we have our roles cut out. When we are out in the open, if we can think that we are human beings first, our nationality next, our gender, and nothing else, leaving all our personal baggages at home. And if we land, outside with just this identity and know what our role as a citizen is, then I think 90% of the social conflict that we have can be eliminated. How conscious we are about social events, issues, what amount of social service do we do? Do we exercise any kind of extension as far as solving those problems or in decision making? Do we contribute on those lines? Now that is also best left to the individual because it varies with each region. The place where I live will have different kind of requirements than the place where I work. So what I do in the place where I live will be different from what I do in the place where I work. So the social management, the social skills are extremely crucial if we need to have a peaceful coexistence with our neighborhood. And this again, in India being such a diverse country, the diversity is not between states or between territories. The diversity is between one house to another house. Robert Frost's compound wall, Robert Frost's mending wall becomes so much more relevant today, with so many differences that we have with people who live around us. So social management is equally crucial. Professional management is where we need to really dwell enough to handle our own selves, because that is where we will be, even though we spend only about 7 or 8 or maximum 8 hours at workplace, 5 or 6 days a week, and most of the time we spend at home, we identify ourselves with first with our profession. So when someone asks you, what do you do? We don't say, I do these things at home. Our first identity is our profession. Where do I work? What do I do? What do I teach? So that is where managing self becomes very crucial. And all of us being academicians, our aim should be, our identity should be enhancing our academic profiles. So much of importance to an evolving academic profile is given today with NAC and NIRF and all these ranking bodies that constantly sit on us and tell us what we should do, what we should not do, how much we should do, when we should do. All these paperwork, jingoistic kind of work is more important than the actual classroom teaching. Sometimes I feel our teaching has taken a backseat because we constantly keep filling up spaces for NAC, and we've lost the knack of teaching. So respecting, as is common to all kind of contexts, respecting people is very, very essential. Respect for what they are, respect irrespective of what they are. Our duty is to give respect. It's up to them to feel deserving it or not. We need not check if someone deserves respect. It is not our duty. Our duty is to give respect. And over a period of time, we will see that even if we don't respect people, people will start respecting us. So the more we respect others, the more respect we get. Respect, proverbially, as stated, is always commanded and never demanded. Planning, this is so crucial. All of us know how to teach a particular topic. All of us know how to plan our semester. All of us know how to, manage our professional work. But what we can't manage there is our presence in that professional work, our presence in the classroom. We get irked if someone, in fact, in context where cell phones should not be used, the sight of the cell phone can put us off. We get angry if they talk to each other. We constantly tell our classes to keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet, but we want them to enhance their communication skills. How ironic. So if in the context of a classroom, if we can manage ourselves and not throw our anger, not displace our anger that we had probably in the staff room or elsewhere, if we don't throw that anger on the student, very often, let me tell you, this is where we lose our own selves, because our behavior will be monitored, not just noticed, it will be monitored by the students. And respect for us will be defined by the behavior that we exercise in a classroom. So even if we are very good teachers, that one momentary slip of our tongue that produced a very harsh word will lose all the respect that we had gained as a good teacher. So that is very, very crucial. How we conduct ourselves in a classroom becomes very, very important. We need to plan. When we can plan our syllabus, why can't we plan our other work? Very often we are caught up with too much of paperwork, question papers to be readied, to be submitted on a particular date. And then these question papers, they have to be scrutinized. You have loads and loads of paper. The exam has to be administered, and then you have to sit for correction. The corrected papers have to be returned on a certain date. So we always constantly work to a very tight schedule. If we decide what we are going to do when, how much time we are going to invest on each of these, if we are clear about that, none of this will stress us. Now, that is what is important in self-management. We correct our papers. Sometimes it makes us wonder, when did I even say this? And the last 2 years with online classes, we find everyone present, but nobody attending the class, because it's only the cell phone which will be attending the class. People will not be there. I have personally seen people switching it on, connecting to the link, being present in the classroom, but happily going off to sleep. So in this kind of scenario, it becomes even more important that we present some kind of, students should imbibe some qualities at least when we get this chance to meet them in person. In Tamil Nadu, it has been terrible the last, I'm not sure how things are at Telangana, but in Tamil Nadu, the last 2 years have been a complete washout. Students don't know anything. And in fact, they even refrain from paying attention in classes. They do not want textbooks. They want everything in PDF. So coming out of this is going to be an uphill task for the education world as a whole. Okay, that aside, when we do, as I said earlier, how we teach a particular topic this semester, how we can improve upon the same topic in the next semester to keep us motivated. So we need to compete with our own self. In fact, one of the things that I tell my junior colleagues, the fresh from classroom colleagues, as I call them. Last year, they would have been in their MPhil classrooms, and this year, they would walk into the department as a young lecturer or a young teacher. So I keep telling them, you are a competition unto yourself. What you do this semester must be more than what you did last semester, and you should keep adding to what you have done. It may not be something very impressive, but it may be a small step forward, and that is how you show yourselves that you are growing. So over a period of time, you will have so much more to add to your resume. And when you add at least half a page to your resume every year, then I think by the time you finish your career, you won't submit a resume, but you will submit a booklet. And you should aim to do that. So this is something that I constantly tell my fresh from the classroom colleagues. Some of them have taken that seriously, and I'm so happy about that. So contributions over and above your regular work is what we can give the society. What we teach, we get an income, so it breaks even there. But what we do over and above our regular teaching work, and that will be our small reciprocation to society, to the society that has given to us so much, to the society that has made us what we are. So we must look forward to these kind of contributions. And in order to make those kind of contributions, we must start doing something over and above our regular work in a very small way. It can be reading a book. In fact, in today's scenario, it's even easier than what it was when I started teaching. Today, you can have your own blog. Every time you read a book, post a small review there. And as you keep adding to it, you will also add viewers. Your own students can be your viewers. You can motivate in a class of 60. If 2 students are motivated to read your blog, then that is success. Next, they will start writing their own blogs. And that is how we improve knowledge. That is how, as teachers, we can share knowledge across the world. It is equally important that we update our knowledge and skills. Now, that is very important to manage myself, because that is what shows that I'm growing. Something that I constantly feel for myself is, once a teacher, always a learner. So this urge for learning, the thirst for learning, should never be quenched. Maybe at retirement we can, but until then, this thirst should always be alive. And we must update. No thanks to COVID. Thanks, but no thanks to COVID. all of us have become tech savvy, computer savvy. We've been forced to becoming computer savvy. That is an upgradation of our knowledge. That is an upgradation of our skills. Now we must improvise on that. And every small thing that we do will contribute to the growth of the inner self, and thereby what is presented to the outside about us will also see that kind of a difference, that much of a difference. So contributions over and above our regular work is very important, and how we manage our time for each of this is what is crucial. Now we need to understand how much time we invest on each of these. When do we invest time for college work? When do we invest time for our work? Because at home too, work only keeps growing. As our children grow older, our work will also grow that much more. As we grow older, we will also become a little slower, which means we take longer time to do the same work. So we must be aware of all these changes in us and about us so that we manage ourselves in a much more refined manner. What is crucial as far as our work is concerned is we work for the outcome. And when we work for the outcome, income automatically follows. Income automatically enhances. When the outcome enhances, income also enhances. Now, this is how we manage our profession, we manage our work in our professional setup, and how we deal with each one of our colleagues will make us the better person that we can be. So let's look at some very simple situation in which we encounter difficulty. If we are right and someone, when people constantly, this is something that I tell gossip mongers. If you keep on talking about me, behind me, then I have done something right. If I have done something wrong, tell me on my face. If you have the courage to tell me on my face, then I'm really wrong. I will do something for course correction. But if people talk about me behind my back, I have no time for that. They have enough time to waste it on me. Then it's their problem. It's nothing for me. So I will not waste my time on others. One of the things that I had learned from my teacher is that what we have in our mind should deserve its place. All heaps of dirt should not be in our mind. Our mind, if we are thinking about somebody, then that person should deserve their place in our mind. So if we have that kind of a cleanliness in our mind, then we don't have to fear about anything. If we are wrong, we are going to apologize. In fact, Dale Carnegie says, indulge in a little bit of self-depreciation. Oh, why did I do this? I wish I had not been so foolish. So when we depreciate ourselves, we are denying others to criticize us, denying others a chance to criticize us. Now, if we do that, then we become more conscious about our work. Bickering and mudslinging are best left ignored. I don't think we have time for that. We are thorough professionals. We don't have to deal with it. When someone shouts, when someone yells, we should not shout, we should not yell. We have already seen how important it is to moderate our tone and our voice. When someone else shouts, they are wasting their energy. Now, why should we waste our time responding to that? It's when someone shouts, it's always best to remain calm and quiet, give them time to cool down, and then express our point of view. When someone shouts at us, if we express our point of view, it will not be taken seriously. So these are typical problematic situations that we encounter in our workplace. And that is when we need better self-management. And the watchwords for us should be what we are, not what others think we are. So we define what we are. Others can have 1,001 views about us, but we know what we are. Now, another thing that can define us is what kind of a thought we have in our mind. Small minds will discuss people. Gossip mongers will constantly be discussing about people. This person is like that. That person is like that. This person did this. This person said that. Average minds will discuss events. Yesterday, this happened, that happened. But great minds will discuss ideas. And I think if I can manage myself well, it is best reflected in my thoughts. And my thoughts will be only about good ideas. So let me now open the platform for interactions, if any. If it is time for your next session, then tell me how we can go about this interactions. Can I stop sharing the screen?
Yes,
so that I can come back to the, yeah. So I would like to check, have you posted your questions in the chat box? Yeah.
we haven't received any questions.
Yes, any
so
questions from the organizers? I hope the session was clear and my voice was clear.
Yes, ma'am, it was. It was.
Okay.
We'll just wait for another 2-3 minutes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you give me tip to change the mind of my child from phone? Spend more time with the child and not with the phone. What I do to my niece is, every time she asks for the phone, I keep my phone aside and I start playing with the child. When there is physical activity, their minds do not get distracted to the phone. Another thing is, it's not possible to stop the child, suddenly. That will create tension in the child. So we can wean the child of phone very slowly. We can regulate it. We can tell the child from this time to this time. You can play with the phone, or you can use the phone for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. As the case may be, if the child sits for hours on it, then the intervention can be drastic. But if the child is constant, once in a while it takes, it's not constant, it's once in a while it takes, and when it takes, it's constantly, then you can regulate. The watchword is, how much time do we spend on phone? At least in the presence of the child, if we don't use phone, then I think the child will also learn from us. And most of my papers, when I write, when my children were young, today, of course, they are all grown up. I used to write manually and type it out in the computer only in their absence, because those days we used to have only one computer. So we have our clear time. From this time to this time, it's my turn to use the computer. From this time to this time, my husband has to use the computer. So we have that kind of a schedule. And once we respect it, children will also respect it. It's only when we breach that contract, children will also, try to overdo. Over a period of time, of course, the numbers increased. Everyone needed a laptop, and when laptops came in, all of us wanted one. So that became slightly different. By the time cell phone came, I think my children grew older. So today I see my niece. So this is what my niece does. And this is what all of us have been suggesting to regulate. We cannot tell the child, don't use cell phone. But we can tell the child how to use it, how not to use it, when to use it, when not to use it. And most importantly, we can probably even tell the child what to use it for. So that way the child gets gratified quickly. It's only for others the gratification should delay, but for the child, gratification can be instant. So I think that should help. Pleasure, dear. We get better through our life experiences. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Experience is the best teacher. No textbook can teach us more than, or better than experience. Our own experience is the best teacher that we can get. And when we share our experiences, see, that is where a teacher is different from most other professionals. We can share our experiences and we can share it to generations who have not yet experienced it, so that they are aware of what is available or what is in store for them in future. Very often, if we give it as advice, they won't take it, but if we narrate it as a story of our own life, it will be received. Yeah. Any other question?
I think we don't have any more questions, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pleasure.
And
Absolutely
I
a
would like to
pleasure.
propose vote of thanks. On behalf of AV College, I wish to extend vote of thanks to Dr. Sumati Shivakumar for a wonderful session. We really feel enlightened and believe that we have learned to manage stress rather than cope with it, ma'am. I appreciate the inferences quoted from literature and correlating them to our daily life. We look forward to have more sessions with you, ma'am, on different topics. Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pleasure. Wish everyone all the best. A belated Ugadi to all of you.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
wish every one of you a very bright, happy, and enjoyable teaching career. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
I now hand over the session to my colleague and fellow moderator, Ms. Sandhya Rani. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Precious ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I, Sandhya, from MBA department. It is my immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Sesisekaran Tyagarajan, sir. Sir has done PhD in Applied Linguistics and English language teaching. Sir has 45 years of experience in teaching, research, and placement training, and worked for the British Council as a freelancer and lay examiner for the Royal College of Surgeons, UK, and worked as a professor in reputed institutions like VIT University, Vellore, and Kongu Engineering College in Tamil Nadu as a placement resource trainer, and trained major IT companies like Infosys, CTS. Sir worked as a lead source in placement training, dealing with communication skills development and verbal aptitude. Online resource person for FDPs, conference, seminars, and workshops. I welcome Dr. Sesisekaran sir to enlighten us on the topic social and emotional intelligence. Now I am handing over the session to Dr. Sesisekaran sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
So before I start, I would like to know when I should wind up because starting is always easy and concluding could be a tricky proposition. So what time do I really stop?
At 6 o'clock, sir.
6 o'clock. Thank you. So good evening to all. The topic that we are going to discuss is social and emotional intelligence. Let me make one point very clear. These are very specialized areas. As language teachers and teachers of other subjects, we are not the real experts to talk about social, emotional intelligence or stress management and things like that. That's my opinion. But what we are doing is not to speak from a specialist, expert point of view, but to talk about what are the basic inputs that we need to give students purely from the placement and job perspective. So that's where this becomes relevant, social and emotional intelligence. So in that sense, we are talking about a limited
I request the participants to please mute your audios. Sir, we are not able to.
Right. Yes.
Your voice is not audible,
Yes.
sir.
Right. So we are discussing these things purely from placement point of view, from the career counseling point of view. That's the first thing that I would like to uh, put forth across. And I'll share my screen, and let's see if can have a look at some of these slides. Are you able to see my slides, PowerPoint slides? Are you able to see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
sir.
Fine. So the first point is that as far as social intelligence and emotional intelligence and such other things are concerned, till recently, till about 30 years back, we had a rather monolithic perception about these things. Intelligence was considered as something that is holistic and monolithic, rather. Uh, and the finer nuances that we see today uh, uh, through the insights offered by psychology and other related domains, there was this single view that the intelligence was something that was unitary. That's why we used to talk about intelligence quotient in those days. It refers to the levels of intelligence of a person and the information processing speed that the person possessed. So that's what we called intelligence in those days. And thankfully, the subsequent developments in the area of educational psychology and clinical psychology, behavioral psychology, and these areas brought in new insights, particularly Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory that came in 1983. The book is known as Frames of Mind, the book that he wrote in which he proposed this theory. Now, of course, it's a globally accepted theory. Everyone knows about it. I am very sure that most of the teachers also know about it. So before going into social intelligence and emotional intelligence, I would request our colleagues, my young colleagues, to have a thorough understanding of this multiple intelligence theory. That really helps us to see things in perspective, and also to be in a position to tell students what are the things that they need to keep in mind when they prepare themselves for placement and related things. So what Howard Gardner essentially said is that intelligence is of different types, different kinds. It's not unitary. Each person can have a different different kind of intelligence in which he is really good. He can excel in a particular field and not in another field. So that difference is very important to understand, he said. So according to Gardner's theory, there are several types of intelligence, and each intelligence has to be understood and respected. We cannot consider academic performance and grades and marks as the sole criteria for assessing intelligence. Of course, Howard Gardner's theory has gone through several stages of development. Subsequent additions to his theory have led to a broader classification like the one I have mentioned in this slide. Have a look at it. We have logical and mathematical intelligence. We have examples also given there. Not that these are the two fellows, two people who are the real examples. They're like them. There are so many others. These people, such great minds, have the expertise and intelligence, extraordinary intelligence in logical thinking and mathematical processing mathematical information. So that's called logical mathematical intelligence. Then naturalist intelligence. In fact, Gardner didn't talk much about it. It is a later emendation that gives us an idea about people who understand nature better, the people who are able to tell more about nature, understand the processes of nature, understand the various dimensions that go to making nature the most important thing in our lives. So you have the examples there, like Charles Darwin, who wrote about the theory of evolution, and David Attenborough, all of you must be knowing about him, has done a lot of work in the field of producing documentaries, excellent seminal documentaries on nature and aspects related to nature. Then you have the visual and spatial intelligence, where the visual memory and imagination are very strong, and you have great artists and people who excelled in such fields like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and people like them. Then you have bodily and kinesthetic intelligence, where the body-mind coordination, the body coordination and the mind coordination go hand in hand very strongly in a very superior way to bring out certain excellent actions and productive things, like Bruce Lee and Jim Carrey. You must have heard about Jim Carrey, the Hollywood actor, who is considered to be a very good example for excellent bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Then, of course, linguistic intelligence, or the most primary intelligence of all kinds. I would rate this as the most important, because linguistic intelligence, it underpins everything, all other kinds of intelligence, and every kind of human activity. Language, verbal intelligence plays an important role, and of course. The examples I have given is Shakespeare and Tolstoy. Of course, you can think of any number of examples for this. Then musical intelligence, Mozart or your own A.R. Rahman or Ilayaraja. At times you think, you wonder how these people have such great intelligence to create such alluring and enduring music, and that explains perhaps the reason why these people are considered to be examples for musical intelligence. Then you have abstract and existential intelligence. It's a very interesting area of research these days, where some people are endowed with greater gifts of understanding theories and concepts and problem solving. They are into metaphysics, the concepts which are very difficult to understand. They understand and they try to explain it to others. And we have the example of Buddha and Socrates and such other great people. Mechanical intelligence deals with the mechanisms and processes. You have the example of Elon Musk in our own time, who is considered to be a very great person in the field of mechanics and space science and things like that. You have intrapersonal, people who can understand themselves better. Understanding oneself is not that easy. It's considered to be one of the most difficult things in human experience. And people who have mastered this particular aspect are called experts, geniuses, and people who are gifted with that intrapersonal knowledge or understanding. And the examples cited are Gandhi and Sigmund Freud. Then comes social intelligence, which is interpersonal in nature. By its very definition, it is interpersonal. There are quite a number of examples who people excel in people skills, interacting with people, talking to people, and things like that. You have several examples. Of course, you can cite your own examples. I don't have any objection. There are just given some names so that you will understand the concepts in a better way. So this is the thing that you need to understand before you take up this business of explaining social intelligence and emotional intelligence to students. So the next one, the most important thing is, let's start with social intelligence. What is social intelligence? Why do we talk about social intelligence and emotional intelligence? In recent times, these two concepts have become very important, along with so many other interrelated topics. The reason being, the reason is that the new era of work culture, where organizations and companies are looking to recruit young minds from colleges and universities. These companies expect youngsters, the new recruits who are going to be onboarded into different kinds of roles in their organizations, to be good in these areas of social and emotional intelligence. That's the reason why in recent times we are talking so much about these things, so social intelligence and emotional intelligence. So we have the need to understand it from the perspective of the workplace, particularly, These are relevant in other fields also, as you all know. But in the workplace, these are very, very important. That's why companies and organizations are giving so much attention, so much focus to these two branches of intelligence, because in the practical world of the workplace, where today everyone is working with everyone else, nobody works as an individual, that you're aware of, I suppose. Everyone works in a team. Organizations create teams, and teams get together to complete given assignments and projects and things like that. So when you get together with other people, when you work together with other people, when you collaborate with other people, you need to have this understanding of what is social intelligence. How do you get along with people? The interpersonal capability to gel with people, to work with people, to and get the work done. That's the most important thing. They're not talking about personal relationships. They're not talking about people coming together as friends and having a good time. They're talking about the professional sphere, where people need to come together and work together as teams and to complete the given tasks and assignments. And for these tasks to be completed, people need to gel well. They need to have social interaction, interpersonal interaction to the required extent. And they need to understand their own emotions. They need to understand the emotions of people who are working with them. And that's the only way disagreements and conflicts and such other things can be minimized to the possible extent. And wherever they crop up, they come up, these conflicts and differences can be resolved in an efficient and professional manner. That is the reason why we are talking about social intelligence and emotional intelligence. Of course, that being the bottom line, it doesn't necessarily limit you to an understanding of social intelligence and emotional intelligence related to the work sphere. You can go beyond that and relate these things to your own personal lives, your own personal experiences, to the personal experiences of the students. For the benefit, you can tell them all that. But what we are primarily concerned about is the required understanding of these intelligences and the ability to use this intelligence in an effective way to work in a given situation and a given context. That's what we are talking about. So in a practical sense, this is a placement related topic. Of course, it relates to life at a general level. For that matter, everything relates to life. There is nothing that doesn't relate to life. But the focus should be on job related, workplace related issues, and how to connect those issues to this broad spectrum of social and emotional intelligence. Now, let us talk about social intelligence first. What do we learn from the society? You can give your answers very briefly in a word or a phrase. Very, very briefly, you can use the chat box and tell me about what do we learn from the society. Looks very simple, the question. Let's see what are the kinds of responses I get from the participants. Yes, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. Okay, okay. So people seem to be thinking about it. So let's proceed and say that we learn everything from the society. The role of the society in modern times is so significant. So much has been researched about it. So much has been studied about it. And everything and everywhere, the society plays an important role. What do we learn from the society? To answer that question, we need to consider so many things. Possibly, here is a sum up. It's not complete. You can add to it. You can expand it if you want. So the first thing that you need to understand is that when we talk about social intelligence, we need to understand that society is at the core of everything. Social interaction is at the core of everything. I'll give you an example. Let's talk about English language learning, because that's my field. Of course, quite a number of you must be English language teachers there. Other teachers also you can follow. It's not particularly limited to English language teaching. So how do we learn a language? There are quite a number of theories that were in place over the past 70 to 80 years, from the period of liberalism on to structuralism and post-structuralism, post-colonialism, and at every stage in the evolution of modern theory. We have seen the same kind of changes in our understanding of language learning. So we had behaviorism, where it was believed that language learning is basically a part of social behavior, where through continuous drills and continuous training and continuous drilling, one could be taught the language through the grammar translation method, and things were products of such an approach. And subsequently, we had people like Noam Chomsky and others coming up, and there were views like linguistic competence and things like that. Like linguistic determinism, which means that language decides everything. Language decides our understanding of everything, our relationship to the society, to the external world. From there, we moved on to so many other things like finally, there was Language and Society, a book written by Delheims. I don't remember the year, you can check it out. Delheims spoke about social interaction and communicative competence. What he means is that language is learned only through social interaction. If there are no social interaction, if there had to be no social interaction, there won't be any language learning. We learn language because we interact with others. And that led to concepts like social cognitivism. It's not only mere cognitivism which helps us to learn a language. It is social cognitivism which happens when we interact in a social context with other people. That's the time that language learning takes place. So that led to concepts like communicative competence and social activity-based learning. That's why we talk about activity-based learning. Activity-based learning is a microcosmic representation of the social interaction-based language learning. If language is learned through social interaction, the same kind of interaction can be created in the classroom, so that effective ways of learning the English language or any other language for that matter can be expedited. So that is the kind of understanding that is coming to the sphere of language learning. So the same kind of theory can be applied to anything for that matter. See, we learn everything from the society, be it culture or tradition or language, religion or food habits. Food habits come from the society. If one is born in Japan, one gets to attune to the kind of food habits that society offers. Religion is a habit of society. What kind of religious practices a society has, the society into which you're born, that decides what kind of religious pursuits or religious beliefs or ideologies that you possess. So like this, everything is there. Everything is given by the society. We learn everything through social interaction. Social interaction, it doesn't limit itself to people outside the family, including the family. Social interaction includes the family, the personal circle of family and friends, the social circle, plus the professional circle. Everything is considered the interaction, social interaction. So that being the case, that should explain why social intelligence becomes important. Because the social interaction is important, because we learn everything from the society, because all our ideas about social rules and regulations, there are quite a number of written rules and unwritten rules from the society, which we consciously follow most of the time, and most of the time at times we also follow subconsciously or unconsciously. So since the society plays an important role, the normal saying that man is a social animal, that should possibly explain why society becomes so important, even though I don't like that particular definition, because I don't like calling human beings social animals, because I strongly believe animals in so many ways are better than human beings. So we are social beings. It would be better to call ourselves as social beings, products of society. So since we are products of society, since we learn everything from the society, because the society tunes up everything for us, we need to understand that social intelligence is very important. This is the reason why social intelligence is very important at the conceptual level. Again, if you bring it down to the micro level, you can talk about social intelligence in the workplace, social intelligence that is to be used in the colleges and universities where one studies, social intelligence that is required to strike up good relationships with friends and family and other people around you. So in every sphere, social intelligence plays an important role, right? So this is the reason why social importance is considered important, because all fields of all different knowledge systems like psychology, like sociology, like so many other branches of knowledge and knowledge systems tell us that the society is important. Without the society, the human being can never evolve. So that makes social intelligence very important. So now let's see what social intelligence is all about. Now that we have seen these things, simply it means how do we deal with others? How do we deal with others, adapting to social environment around you, which includes family and friends, place of study and work. Now look at this example. By no stretch of imagination can we say that even handling relationships within the family, within the close circle, could at times be difficult. It's not that something that you can take for granted. It's not the something that you can say that no, I'm an expert in handling all these things. Nobody is an expert. It's only in the process of evolution that everything happens, and it is through experience and through trial and error that we learn how to handle things even within the family. So the same thing can be extended to the family circle of friends, and to the place where one studies, and finally where one works. So the term people skills is very often used to express social intelligence, uh, both for the personal sphere as well as for work sphere. So what exactly does it mean? Now, like I was telling, when you let us talk about the work sphere, because that's what we are more concerned about. Of course, the academic sphere also. When someone is in school or when someone is studying in a college, and subsequently when someone goes to work in some organization, the most important thing, but in today's world, is to be able to work in a team, to be able to work with other people, to share, to understand, and to react appropriately, and to ensure that you're part of the team that has been assigned a certain assignment or certain project or certain kind of work. So this ability to learn and reason out, to understand our own emotions. It starts with understanding our own emotions. That's a very interesting sphere. You need to look at it closely, whether we understand our own emotions first. Then only we can talk about understanding the emotions of others and reacting appropriately. So that's where we need to do this. So working with others, understanding people, be in a positive frame of mind most of the time, be good at crisis management or disagreement management, I would call it. So these are the kinds of things that we need to consider. How to get along with people, short and sweet, how to get along with people, both in the personal sphere as well as in the professional sphere. So for that, you need to understand social dynamics. If you're joining an organization, you need to understand its work culture. You need to understand what kind of social dynamics are operative there, what kind of hierarchy exists there, what kind of roles are assigned to people, what is the role that is given to the individual, and what is the kind of a network that is in operation in that particular organization. Understanding this dynamic, social dynamics, is very, very important. Without an understanding that is, for example, if you're working as a professor or a lecturer in a college, you automatically you try to understand. It's not a rocket science. You try to, but there should be a conscious effort to understand how the system works, how the hierarchy is placed, what is your role, what you are expected to do, what you're expected to do with others and on your own. These kind of social dynamics of an organization is something that is important to understand. And companies, that's why when they onboard people, when they give them training, the initial training, they start with information about the organization itself. That's the first thing that they will try to tell: how the organization is structured, who are the important people, how the pyramid of hierarchy is it works there in that organization, and where at what level you are fixed, and with whom you will work, and to whom you should report, and who are the people who will monitor your progress. This kind of information is what organizations initially give to the new recruits and those who are onboarded on new jobs. So understanding the social dynamics is very important, both in the workplace, in the academic world, where you either study or work, or understanding the dynamics of even the family relationships, understanding the dynamics of the relationships among friends. All these things become very, very important. The second point is understanding the second layer of these dynamics, that is understanding the rules and norms and social mores and behavior. Everywhere you have social norms, social mores. Mores is a word from sociology. It relates to social norms and terms of behavior. There are, like I said, there are written rules. In most organizations, you have written rules. When a person receives an appointment letter from a company, the first thing that he will see is what are the rules and norms of behavior in that company. That will be given in black and white, and have no doubt about it. Most of you would have seen it. Even your own appointment letters, if you have a look at it, you will see that there are several rules and regulations and norms of the organization that you are supposed to abide by and be familiar with. So this is the second level of understanding. Those who understand these things well, those who understand how to operate within this framework, they are usually successful. There are people who are sullen, those who are cynical, people who do not want to be dictated to. People think that people are dictating terms to them. These kind of people always face the problem of coming into conflict with people who are above them or below them. So understanding the social dynamics of an organization, understanding the norms and rules of behavior, these are important things as far as social intelligence is concerned. Because you don't understand the operative system well, you're not going to understand how you're going to work within that system, how you're going to operate within this system. So to operate well within this system, you need to understand how it is structured, what are the organizational rules and behavior. Then the third important thing is, of course, there's no need to foreground this or underscore this, because all of you know that language and communication play an important role. Unless to interact with people, you need communication. You need to communicate effectively to the required extent. That's what we talk about these days. Using language to the required extent. You need not be a great public speaker or an orator. You need not write like James Joyce. It's not necessary. But you need to use the language, whatever language is expected.
गरम वाले में इतना सही है, इसको मिक्स कर दो, इसमें इसी में पड़ा नहीं तो
Yes, social and emotional intelligence. Right. So what happens is that language plays an important role. Social interaction is based on language. Fundamentally, language is one of the most effective and most important tools in social interaction. The way one uses a language, because that's why French theorists like Foucault spoke about language and power. Language is power. One of the sources of power. There are several sources of power, like land, like gold, like money and wealth. And no way less than all these things is language. Language is considered to be an instrument of power. People who can use language effectively, they acquire a certain amount of power. And the more they use it effectively, the more power comes into them. So language, using language, listening to people in social interaction, one of the most fundamental requirements of social intelligence is that the ability to listen properly to others. Listen, assimilate, understand, try to evaluate what they're saying, and then respond appropriately. And that language, quite a number of instances, language lets people down. They may have good ideas, they may have quite a number of things to say, but when it comes to saying, when it comes to expressing, quite a number of people falter. They make mistakes because language fails to come to their aid. So that is another important thing. So these are some of the most important theoretical aspects, because I always like to talk about concepts. Concepts are important for teachers. For students, you can't be talking about concepts like this. When you explain things to students, you need to tell them what they need to do. As teachers, we need to understand what are the things that we have to know in order to behave in such and such way. So this theoretical input, this conceptual input that I am giving is primarily meant for teachers, for your consumption, for your understanding, so that you will be in a position to deliver things in a better way to the students. So let's see what are the other important aspects of social intelligence. Empathy is something that all of you know about, understanding our own emotions and understanding other people's emotions. There are two kinds of empathy. These are psychological terms, actually: primal empathy and empathetic accuracy. Primal empathy is making an overall assessment of the state of mind in which a person speaks to you. It's easy to understand. If you focus on that, you can understand whether the person is in what kind of mental condition he is in when you are talking to him. It's very important to understand that overall framework. If you understand that better, definitely you will be able to respond better, respond in an appropriate way. Empathetic accuracy is understanding the minor things, how their words, their gestures, and what they're trying to convey through the body language and things like that. These things also matter. So all put together, you need to understand how the other person is trying to. And it's important to understand our social roles also. An emotionally intelligent person understands social roles, the roles that we are expected to play, and the roles that others expect to play. Others do play. And the most important requirement here is that there are several roles that are required in an organization, as in a college or as in a school. Every role is important. There's nothing, maybe some roles are more important than others, but every role is important, fundamentally important. And understanding these roles, understanding our roles, social role, and understanding the role of others, both these are important. And this helps us to decode the world around you. Decoding is a very important aspect of psychology. You decode language, you decode the environment, you decode the behavior of people. Whatever is happening around you, you should be able to understand it. Put in simple terms, it simply means understanding. Decoding is paying attention and understanding. That comes with some amount of practice. We should know that we should be aware of what we are doing. That is important. And becoming flexible to our social environment. You need to be flexible these days, these times. It's always good to be flexible, even in our traditional moral lessons. Flexibility is always given an importance. Emotional intelligence. See, any language you take, be it Tamil or Telugu or Kannada or Malayalam or Hindi, there is always you'll always have some very wise things about controlling one's anger, the effects of anger. All these are there in the traditional knowledge system. Not that they have not spoken about it. All our great grand narratives, the epics and shastras, everything, all the religious books, they talk about all these things in a different way from a moral perspective. And here in modern times, we are talking about it from a professional perspective. That's what is the difference. So in those days, they always use do you think people didn't talk about emotional intelligence? Maybe they didn't use that particular term, emotional intelligence and social intelligence, but they spoke always. Our elders and our ancestors have always spoken about so how to behave in society, how to behave with people, how to be good to people. All these are part of our traditional knowledge system. There's nothing that's not spoken about. But today we are talking about it from the vantage point of view, the vantage position of the information that has been supplied by psychology, by sociology, by such related socio-behavioral sciences. That these fields have given us a lot of information about things. So being adaptive and flexible in a social environment is very, very important. And addressing differences. One thing that we need to understand is that the differences and disagreements will always be there. We have to be realistic about it. There is no ideal world where no utopian world where there could be no differences or disagreements between people. If you are looking to that, you will be sorely disappointed. In a work environment, in a professional environment, there will always be disagreements, even at times conflicts cropping up. But you have to look at them positively. You must try to understand these disagreements in the most rational, scientific manner possible. Not without getting emotional. That's where emotional intelligence comes into play. So the social intelligence and emotional intelligence, in my opinion, are two sides of the same coin. So you need to use this for that and that for this. Both are interrelated. It's not a segmental or compartmentalized. So addressing these differences very positively, trying to understand the causes and the reasons for these differences, how the differences could be resolved. So what companies are expecting from young entrants, new entrants, is the ability to problem solve. Solving problems is what they expect. So addressing differences positively and trying to solve problems is also an important aspect of working in the professional world. And for that, you need social and emotional intelligence. So this is an important thing that you need to tell the students, how to address differences, how to cope with the disagreements, how to bring things to a closure and to a conclusion, to a positive result, because the positive result is what the companies want. For example, a team can work on a project. Do you think there won't be any differences, disagreements, at times arguments, at times conflicts? Definitely there'll be, because people have different expectations. People have different roles to play. People have different expectations. People have different understanding of the same thing. That is why this is human tendency. To a same situation, people behave differently. Isn't that something that thought about? You would have thought about it. See, when you go to a party, you will see that not all people react in the same way. Each one reacts in a different way. So understanding differences and be able to resolve differences is a very important thing that organizations expect, and social and emotional intelligence plays an important role. And this is very, very important when you work in large organizations. See, all these IT majors and other top organizations today, they employ thousands and thousands of people. If you go to Bangalore or to Hyderabad or to Chennai or to Pune or to Gurgaon, you will see that quite a number of people work in each organization, each and every organization. So working in teams and working together, this always creates it always expects people to work together, understand, resolve differences and disputes, and ensure that these things do not exceed the limits and go to the extent of creating conflicts. So this is something very important. Working being flexible, it doesn't mean that you need to show passive agreement to everything. You be firm, you be in control of the decisions that you make. This is something very important and an important aspect of social and emotional intelligence. Being in control of the decisions you make, either on the organization or in the place where you study. So you are responsible for your decisions, but before arriving at your decisions, your informed decisions, you need to take into consideration the views of others, the opinions of others, the other dynamics that come into play, and then be flexible, take in the views of others, accept what others say, consider, at least if not accept, consider, make necessary changes. If you consider that what the other people are saying is something important that needs to be considered, you must accordingly make necessary changes, and then arrive at the decisions. But always remember that you are responsible for your own decisions. So be in control of your decisions, and don't always go for a passive agreement. Being flexible doesn't mean that you must shake your head and listen to what other people say and go by what they say. That's not the point that we are talking about. So these are all the essential dynamics of social. So what are the important, how do the intelligent, socially intelligent people behave? What do they do? Language, like I said, very important. There are different ways of saying the same thing. Say, for example, there is a thing called the I statement and you statement. That you may find it useful. See, when you say you, supposing you're a manager, you keep on saying to another co-worker of yours who works under you, if you keep on saying you're not doing enough, you're late in everything, you are delaying things, you are responsible for this and that, instead of saying you for everything, you can put yourself foreground, yourself. You can say I have the project to complete. I have to answer to my superiors, to my managers. I have to deliver this product within this span of time. I have to complete the evaluation of these answer scripts within such and such time. I am responsible for that. So I would expect you to cooperate. So you're saying the same thing, but you're saying in a different way. That's what is called the I statement and the you statement. The same way, language plays an important role. Some of the finer nuances of language could make a lot of difference. For example, you use but and, very simple things. These, when you use these conjunctions, they can, connotatively they can be very different. I'll help you, but you have to wait. Nothing wrong in saying that. But if you say I will help you and you have to wait, there is a difference. There is a connotative shift. There is a tonal shift. There is some kind of politeness that comes into play when you use and in the place of but. So these are some of the things that are important. And greeting, thanking, being courteous. We should learn to say thank you more. I often see the people from the West. They thank a lot. They thank the cab drivers. They thank the bearers in hotels, and we Indians are a little behind in that aspect, I suppose. So I don't see any of us thanking the bearer who brings us the food in the hotel. We don't thank the cab driver. We don't thank the lift man. So these are things that are very important in the social. Saying thank you and being courteous. Smiling, maintaining facial. Look at the body language. That what are the positive things like maintaining smiling and maintaining physical distance. This is important. But where the bad things about are rolling the eyes and shrugging, you can just have a look at it. What are the things that you can must avoid? So language plays an important role in social intelligence, and body language also plays an important in social intelligence. So these are some of the things that we need to keep in mind, particularly language. I think language takes care of quite a number of things. If your language is polite, if your language is effective, if the language is to the point, if the language is less offensive and friendly, then quite a number of things on the social sphere, they take care of themselves automatically. So using the language is very, very important. And body language and other things also come into play. So look at this story of Kim Peek. You can Google for Kim Peek. Kim Peek was a very, very, very brilliant man. He had extraordinary intelligence. He could read fast. His speeding read was about 100 times more than the speeding read of ordinary people. He was exceptional. He could read so many things so fast and remember things. But when it came to social intelligence, he was very poor. He could not talk to people. He could not get along with people. He didn't know how to place himself in a team. He was very poor at people management or people skills. And in spite of his brilliance and extraordinary gifts of intellectual power, this man faced these kind of difficulties, several difficulties, because his social intelligence deserted him. It is not adequate. So social intelligence is very important for your person's success, both in your personal life as well as in your professional spheres. Like I said, even though we are more concerned about the professional sphere, social intelligence is equally important in the personal sphere also. Every time you talk to your parents, every time you talk to your siblings, every time you talk to your relatives, you should be aware of what you're doing, or what you talk, and how you interact with them. So that is these are some of the most important aspects of social intelligence. Let's very quickly move on to emotional intelligence, because when I'm talking about social intelligence, I'm also talking about emotional intelligence. There are quite a number of things I already have said. So excuse me. So emotional intelligence is another important thing, and be in control of your emotions is the bottom line. Be in control of your emotions is easier said than done. How to be in control is what I would like to talk about for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Because emotions are something that's natural, embedded, genetically codified and embedded in your system. It is biologically transmitted, but socially it can be refined. That is the most important thing that you must remember. Why do I say it's biologically transmitted? Because a genetic factor plays an important role in your emotional frame. Some people are by nature angry, some people are by nature irritable, some people are by nature very serene and soft and gentle all the time. So the genetic factor is there, but that cannot be an excuse these days. You can't say because my father is an angry man, I am an angry person. You can't say that. You will lose out. In the professional sphere, in the work sphere, in today's world, you need how to nurture yourself, how to learn from the environment, how to tune yourself to the requirements of the situation in which you are placed, to the in the context in which you operate. So expressing your emotions and controlling your emotions, your own emotions, and understanding other people's emotions. These are the two dimensions of emotional intelligence. First of all, the most important thing is that we are not aware of our own emotional framework. That's what I am going to talk about. Then we'll talk about how to handle other people's emotions. So the two sides of emotional intelligence is, one is understanding our own emotional makeup, try to fine tune it, try to adjust, try to find out what, do a kind of SWOT analysis, and try to find out what are the plus points as far as your emotional framework makeup is concerned, what are the negatives, what are the shortcomings, what are the pitfalls that you need to focus your attention on. These are some of the things that you need to look at. Knowing our own self, know yourself. That's what Socrates said. Know thyself is not an easy task. Knowing yourself is a perennial, it is a continuous, lifelong process. I don't think at 70 I know myself. Yeah, I need to know more about myself as I go along. So it's a continuous learning process, and knowing ourselves and our emotions and understanding other people's emotions constitute what is known as the emotional intelligence. What are the benefits of emotional intelligence? You can quickly go through that. Can you see the slide? Are you able to see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you have all these things. The benefits of emotional intelligence, being in control of your own emotions. It can give you so many benefits. Helps you to understand and manage your emotions positively. Managing emotions positively means managing your emotions and channelizing these emotions for fruitful, positive, productive results. That is what is important. You must use your emotions for good things, for good results, for your own benefit and for the benefit of the place where you're working. For the benefit of the entire team with which you're operating. And it relieves stress, and uh, helps us to solve quite a number of problems. It diffuses crisis and handle differences, builds relationships, and achieves us, helps us to achieve both in our personal sphere and in our professional sphere. These are the benefits of having good emotional intelligence. What are the bad consequences? If you don't control your emotions, if you don't try to fine tune your emotional intelligence and your emotional behavior, what happens is it affects your performance. That's the most that could be the most devastating consequence. So for quite a number of people, they suffer in the workplace because they're not able to handle things, handle their emotions, and handle stress as a result. It affects relationships, creative negative impressions in the minds of people around you. Then it affects your health. Look at the ways in which emotional stress can affect you. This is not a story time. These are actuals. These are real things that experts talk about. It creates stress. It can lead to stress, and BP suppresses the immune system. The more stress you have, the less effective will be your immune system. That's why quite a number of young people have these heart problems and strokes, and it leads to infertility. They say these are all views of experts, not my views. Speeds up aging. Quite number of guys who work incessantly, constantly, all the time. You can see them graying up so fast. It creates mental problems also, like anxiety, depression, insecurity, and loneliness. These are all terrible things to happen. And quite a number of young people these days, they suffer from these aspects because they're not able to understand, handle their emotional issues properly in the workplace. We are not talking about personal emotions. Of course, personal emotions also are important. So how do you improve your emotional intelligence or emotional quotient or whatever you want to call it? First thing, like I said earlier, be aware of your own emotions. I think the time is up. Maybe I'll wind up in another 2-3 minutes. This is very important. Listen, do you understand your emotions? Most of the time we don't. We just go with the flow. We take things as they come. We don't stop to think how we react, why we react in a way, in the way we reacted. So paying attention to your own emotions is very important. Most of the time we are switched off. We don't understand our own emotions. This is leave alone understanding the emotions of others. Try to understand your own emotions. Connect to your emotions. Experience the flow, how your emotions change from moment to moment, from context to context, from situation to situation. Most of the time we are not aware of it at all. We don't think about it. If we think about it, we will understand. So this is what experts say: connect your own emotions. And the physical emotions, when you're joyful, you experience physical sensations. When you're sad, you when you're really sad, you experience certain physical sensations. Is that correct? Do you expect experience physical sensations when you have certain strong emotions? It happens. When you stop to think about it, you will understand all these things. And individual feelings and emotions like anger, sadness, fear, joy, and these things. Mindfulness is a technique that helps you to connect. Mindfulness is nothing like meditation. It's like meditation. You close your eyes, shut out everything, stop your the continuous the stream of consciousness, your thought process. Try to at least temporarily put the shutters on it, and try to think about the moment, about your mind, about how you feel, about where you are, what you have been doing in recent times, what things made you happy, what things made you angry, what are the things in which you can improve your relationships. So mindfulness is a technique, a psychological technique, very useful. It's like I mean, it's like meditation only. You need to focus your mind on certain things. Think about your own emotional makeup. Think about what are the positives, what are the negatives. You sit and think and meditate like that for 5 minutes. You will know where you are in the emotional matrix, where you are placed in the emotional matrix. And this is very, very important. This is knowing your own emotions. Then controlling your own emotions, being stress free, and understanding and managing emotions in others. The two-dimensional storyline: your own emotions first, and understanding other people's emotions first. And while understanding other people's emotions, look for all the clues and all the signposts, like gestures other people use, the language they use, the reactions and the friendliness or otherwise. Beware of the non-verbal aspects. What are the facial? These are all things we do normally. Not that we don't know all these things, but we need to be more conscious about it, more intelligent about all these things, and handle these things more in a more substantial way. If somebody raises his eyebrow, that means that he is expressing a particular emotion. Using humor also could help in all these things. Of course, it must be appropriate. Humor out of context could be backfire. It could be a very dangerous thing. Resolving conflicts and disagreements or something thing. So short and sweet. This is a very, very vast area. I don't think anybody can come to grips with it in about 50 minutes time or 1 minute's time. What I have presented are the most salient features of social intelligence and emotional intelligence. And you have so much information on this. I would ask you to read the multiple intelligence paradigm or the framework once again. You read it thoroughly, you will understand what are the different aspects. And understanding our own emotions is something that I would lay focus on, because most of the time we do not do that. We understanding other people's emotions is something that we try and do. We try to at least address that issue to an extent, but understanding and coming to grips with our own emotions is something that most of us are not even conscious of, not even aware of it most of the time. So having good social intelligence and emotional intelligence is a prime requirement in today's professional world. And this is the message that you need to take to the students. And like I said earlier, when you talk to the students, don't expect, try to use all these theoretical concepts. Try to tell them how to do it through activities. Because I am basically a concept oriented person. I don't go too much into the activities part. You can easily do it. Young people, you can easily do it. Use the concept and tell the students what to do and why to, and the concepts can wait as far as the students are concerned. These things I hope that you found these things interesting, at least useful. So let me conclude by thanking the organizers, the management, and the principal of the college, and my colleagues in the Department of English and the placement division, perhaps, on all those who are involved in this FTP program. Thank you. I'll take questions if there are any.
Sir, there is one question in the chat box.
Yes.
I'll read for you, sir. How do we know we are emotional intelligent?
Most of the time we don't. By the time we realize that we are not emotionally intelligent, we suffer the consequences. So how do we know that we are emotionally intelligent? No person is emotionally intelligent 10%. Let us be first aware of that. This is a process. This is a curve that we have to follow through experience, through different things that we do and learn, and through our interactions with different people. We slowly learn these things. We cannot achieve 10% effectiveness in that, but those who achieve good amount of control over their emotions, they definitely they succeed. That's what is important. So if you're a friendly person, if you can get along with others, you can rub shoulders, you can work in collaboration in a team, if you can contribute your might, if you understand other people's problems, you try to resolve problem solve, and be a good team member, that will give you an idea about how successful you are at having achieved emotional intelligence. Yes, anything else? Any other question there?
There are any tools to assess our emotional intelligence, sir? This is one more question.
Yes, there are quite a number of well-devised assessment tools. I don't think I'll be able to explain all that unless I have a slide separately for them. But let me just point out there are quite a number of tools available. You can Google for emotional intelligence tests. You will get quite a number of things, which will give you case studies, which will give you examples, which will describe scenarios and ask for your responses. Based on your responses, they try to say which is correct, which is not correct. There are quite a number of tools. For example, social intelligence. Social intelligence is part of our own educational all competitive examinations. In every competitive examination, you will have a portion of the questions which try to assess your psychological and social understanding of things. So there are very effective tools devised for this purpose, and these have been done by experts. I don't think we can do it. You need to be a psychologist, a behavioral psychologist, to be able to put together an assessment tool to check emotional intelligence and social intelligence. But there are tools available, definitely, no doubt about it.
Yeah, okay, sir. No more questions are there, sir.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Let me wish all the participants the very best of everything.
Vote of thanks, sir. Good evening, sir. It's my pleasure. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of AV College IQAC Coordinator Vidulata ma'am, TLC and English Department. A big heartfelt thank you to our speaker, Dr. Sisekaran sir, for both this session, for enlightening us with the knowledge in importance of social intelligence and emotional intelligence. It is very beneficial to all the participants. I would like to thank our organizing committee for helping us in WhatsApp groups and YouTube live streaming. And I would also like to thank our technical team, Vamshi sir, Chiranji sir, for supporting throughout the session. And I would like to thank all the participants from various universities and colleges for making the program a huge success. And I also request all the participants to fill the feedback form, which was posted in the chat box and WhatsApp group. Thank you, sir. Once again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ma'am, shall we end the meeting? Ma'am, shall we end the meeting or shall we wait?
I hope now
Please wait for some time, ma'am.
minutes we'll wait and then we will end.
We will wait for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Srilata, shall we end the program?
Yes, ma'am. I think the feedback form is given. They will fill, participants will fill it.
Yeah, we have also shared them in the groups, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think the
Yes.
participants can use it. And
Yes, ma'am.
those who have filled the form can just leave the. Thank you all. We'll
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah, ma'am.